Alright, today I've got a Thunder Child that a customer would like me to put snake skins on. This is a new bow, has not been shipped to the customer yet, so he wanted, when we spoke, he chose to have the snake skin edition, or snakes added to his bow. So I'm going to start off. I've got a matching set of, as close as I get, I guess, matching set of copperheads here, which was his snake of choice. And the way I do them, works for me, of course, is I'll tape them down to my tabletop here. I got to get the scales off and trim them down a little bit to size, make them easier to work with. But this, since he wanted snake skins and he also wanted black and white ebony, snake skins I choose to put over something that's going to complement them. Copperheads are very thin and you can see through them. If this was an existing bow, maybe black glass or something like that, I would paint the glass with the color that I choose, which is typically a copper color to go behind copperhead skins, and I use a more of a gray or a silver color to go behind rattlesnake skins. And there are a few other skins we use, so you know, it's just kind of depending on what type of skins we're going to do to what color we're going to have. But for this I chose to put Pacific U, and that'll shine through the copperheads nicely. It'll be a beautiful look. Alright, so I got the tape down on top of them. This is for removing the scales. And I rolled it in. So now I'm going to trim them down a little bit just to get the excess out of here. You want to make sure you leave yourself a little bit of little room to work with on the snakes. Alright, now that everything's rolled in and trimmed up a little bit, got the curly part of the belly skin cut off, I'll carefully peel up the snake skin, try to get as much of the scales off as possible. If they don't come off right off the bat, you might roll it back down and pick up a few more, rubbing it in. Now, I've had these snakes for a while, so some of the scales may have already sloughed off of them. It's important to get all the scales off. Now you can get, some can still be on there when you glue it up, but before you put spray over the top of it, you have to get all the scales off, or they will come off on their own after the finish is on. You can see that I got most all the scales off. Some of the blank spots might have already fallen off on their own. Alright, so I've already trimmed the other skin. a little bit extra after the taping. But what I like to do is start closest to the tail because the figure's a little bit smaller on the snake. And I've already made sure that they were long enough, but I'll trim off a little bit right there. And I hold a little excess up here on the limb. Again, to make sure I got enough. You don't want to trim it to the absolute minimum and then have to struggle with it later. So I lift a little on there. This one is a little bigger skin. And again, I'll try to trim off some of the belly scales so that they don't pull away at the skin one side or the other. They're fairly flexible or very flexible, so you can, even if the pattern's a little crooked in the snake itself, you can stretch them off, stretch them to one side or the other. Again, I'm just trimming away the belly skin. Sometimes a certain snake, certain bows, you might need to have that extra width. You want to leave that on there, but on these bows, they don't need any excess. They're fairly narrow, so I don't have to worry about trimming them too small. Alright, the other skin is ready to go, trimmed up, and on to the next process. Alright, so we're getting the bow ready for snake skin. Preacher's over there sanding the bow before I put snake skin on. It's been sitting around long enough that we need a sanding coat in between. So once he gets that roughed up, I'll do a little extra where the snake skin goes down, but then I can mount the snake skins on the bow. Alright, I washed the skins in Dawn dishwashing detergent, and dried them for the most part. Then when they're wet like that, they're extremely difficult to work with. Now I'm going to lightly soak them, just to soften them a little bit. Rub it in a little. I don't want them so mushy you can't, that you're fighting with them. And lay them down here on the paper towels, flat as can be. And while I'm letting that soften up just a little bit, I take some 120 grit, rough the bow limb up so I get some good adhesion. Take a wet paper towel, wipe the limb off. And I'm using Titebond 2. Take a paper towel and dab the skin. Soak up any excess that's sitting on the surface. And apply a liberal amount of glue to the skins. Or, I'm sorry, to the limbs, not the skins. Kind of want to feel to make sure that you don't have any chunks or trash in the glue. Alright. Making sure you put the scale side up. I generally start at the riser. And try to lay it pretty flat. This one's fighting me a little bit. Alright, I'm going to line up the spine line here on the snake and stretch it out. And you roll out the wrinkles and the excess glue. Any air bubbles. I'm trying to keep the center line in line with the center of the limb. Pull all the wrinkles out. If you don't get them all out, it's not the end of the world. You're gonna put a bunch, I'll put a bunch of finish on this, but it just makes it easier the flatter it is. And I'll roll this thing multiple times. Make sure I get any excess glue out. Now while it's still wet, I take a brand new razor blade so it's good and sharp, doesn't fight me. And I trim off the extra skin very carefully. Alright, so I rough trimmed the snake on the sides and pretty well trimmed it in nice on the ends. I do that so that I can take a wet paper towel and wipe all the excess glue off from underneath it that's run down on the sides. You can sand it off later, but this is a whole lot easier, less work involved. And then I go back over with a roller a couple times and make sure that the skin is the way I want it. Now, when this thing is good and dry, it'll be set pretty well here in 30-40 minutes or so, but I won't do anything else to it until it's good and dry, probably tomorrow. And I'll take sanding block and I'll sand those edges and right up nice and tight where I want them to set in on the limbs, and a soft brush and brush over the top, make sure that the scales are gone. Maybe a blower, air blower, and blow it, make sure all the scales are gone, but I don't do that till I know it's good and dry and set. After that, we prep the bow and put her in the spray booth. Put anywhere from 4 to 6, maybe 8 or 10 coats on it, depending on how thick the skin is. And the bow's finished.